And we're live! Hooray! Welcome to the B2B Live Lounge with me, Sarah Clay, and my wonderful guest today. I'm very excited to announce I have the wonderful, lovely Melanie Goodman with us today. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And Melanie, you and I, we have met in real life, have we not? Because we actually don't live that far.
Yeah.
And
I we have a while ago now.
Yeah, it was. Well, I remember because I hobbled into the cafe to meet you on my crutches in your face. It's like, you're on crutches.
Like on the way here. No, I remember. I remember.
Yeah, no.
Well, on LinkedIn, you never see anybody on LinkedIn from the face down type thing. So I had no idea that you were on crutches.
Yeah. So I've been on them for flipping months. It was not my best, not my highlight year, that one. But anyway, we got through it. And here we are, not on crutches at all, which is handy. It's funny though, when things like that happen to you, you do think, is my life ever going to be back to normal? But of course it is, you know.
Yeah, these things happen.
Yes, they do. So, Melanie Goodman, we have a couple of things in common, do we not?
We do.
We were both started out life as lawyers.
We did, and we both left the profession and haven't looked back. So, yeah, I think I don't know which one of us was a lawyer for longer. But I was for a few years. I was for a few years until I moved to Switzerland in 2005. So I practiced until 2005. Then I moved to Switzerland, and then I sort of pivoted and worked for an international law firm, but doing their business development and their LinkedIn from then onwards. So once I moved, because there wasn't at the time much call for English property finance lawyers in Geneva, and I didn't want to retrain because I didn't like it that much. I wasn't like married to the law, so I was like, I can do something different. So I stayed within law. I liked the industry of like the legal sector and finance sector, so I stayed within industry, but I went into the business development and LinkedIn marketing side. And that's where it started. And that's actually where the name of my business comes from as well. It was the name of the road I lived in Switzerland.
Well, that is really interesting. I love that. And what does it mean in Swiss?
I have no idea. I think it's actually Italian. It's actually an Italian name, but we lived in Chemin de Trevisan. So I literally was just sitting one evening and wasn't sure what to call my business, and decided to call it the name of the road that I was living in. But people always ask me what it means, so it's a good conversation starter anyway.
I love that it's got its own story. That's really nice. Yeah.
Well, everything else I came up with sounded like a law firm. If I called myself like Goodman Partners or Goodman or whatever, it just it sounded a bit formal. So yeah.
No, it's great, and as I say, it's got a story behind it. So, and it means something to you. Presumably, it was a happy place. Yeah.
It was a happy time. I was there for 16 years, so it's quite a long time.
Wow.
And but I'm back in London. I've been back in London the last 3 years now. And that has gone really quickly.
Because I think we met when you first came back to London.
Yeah, I think I'd only been back about a month or two.
You were, because you were still living out of boxes. I remember you saying you couldn't find something because you were, yeah. So now we can remember. So your experience, so you sort of gradually, so this transition from being a lawyer to the business development to LinkedIn training. Sorry, I've just been distracted by a comment, which I will come to in a second in the comments. So your transition happened quite smoothly then, because it was within the
I've seen the comment.
Have you seen it?
Yes. We are nicely branded here.
We are, yeah, we are color coded, aren't we? It's great, isn't it? I don't know who that is, unfortunately, because
I don't know. The funny thing was, yeah. So can everyone see that? If they can't, someone commented that Sarah's hair matches my branding. And the funny thing was, I was going to wear an orange shirt so that I matched your branding, but it was only that it wasn't ironed. That was the only reason I didn't wear it in the last minute. So I stuck with what I was wearing. I did put purple and I did brown my necklace. But yeah, it's funny. We could have swapped branding.
That's hilarious. Well, I'm purple and orange.
Yeah, I've got like I was really annoyed actually, because I was like, will anyone notice if it's not iron? Probably not, but I will. So I won't wear the orange shirt, I had the orange earrings already, because actually I wear loads of obviously my own colour, because I like pink and purple as well, and actually orange just because it sort of makes you look alive and not like half tired and dead in the morning. So so I tend to wear those colours anyway. Anyway, I don't even know where we are. Yeah, I got distracted by the branding comment. I'm not sure where we were.
No, but this is what I love about live. You know, it can, when you have live. So for those of you, you know, who obviously that you don't know the structure. So I have 3 or 4 questions rather that I have for my guests, and I usually send them out usually a day or 2 before. Unfortunately, things have happened in my week where I wasn't organized, and Melanie only got the questions about 10 minutes before we went live. So it is very much on the hoof, but that's what I do love about live.
It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And interesting about purple. Yeah, because I started with purple and thought I could do something else to zhuzh it up a bit. So then I threw in the orange. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would have gone pink, but I thought it was just a little bit too girly, and I thought the purple had something slightly more sort of a bit more sort of gravitas to it than me just being all pink. So because I also wanted to reflect a lot of the people that I work with. So because I think you have to resonate to a certain extent with the type of people that you're actually networking with and that you actually want as clients. And I knew that my client base was mostly sort of people who are in finance, in law, in those sort of industries, often regulated industries, but the way that they conduct themselves in their business, family offices, trust companies, that sort of thing, it's not like a sort of cartoony type environment. So I'm not somebody who would send out things with lots of exclamation marks and gifs in them and things like that. It's just not the way that the people I work with generally operate. So and I think that was reflective when I actually chose sort of my branding, my colour, etc. That I knew sort of being all like girly pink was not probably the way to go. And now actually I love it anyway. I mean, it's, you know, the same as you. I have things like around my house. I have cups and everything that's all in the same sort of branding. So it sits well with me. I like it.
Yeah, it suits you. It really does suit you. I like it. And it's very important. I do, you know, and this is one of the things I'm sure you teach when you're working with your clients, is how important that brand message is and how important it is to be cohesive with your branding, for sure, but to stand out, because there's so many people on LinkedIn, aren't there? And you know, especially in the sort of finance and law sectors, it is important to just be a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you say, the consistency is really important, because that's how people remember what you put out. You know, so not even just the color, like the color and the style of what you put out, but actually the type of content that you put out and when you put it out. So I know that some people remember when, like, oh, on a Monday, I always put out a PDF document, some sort of ebook or PDF document, how to guide, that sort of thing, on a Monday. On Fridays, I always have my LinkedIn FAQs that, you know, people will send me in advance, and then I produce them as a post on a Friday. And people start to remember, oh, you know, Mondays, oh, she normally posts XYZ, or, you know, and some people do it in a much more simple way. They'll do like Throwback Thursday, and they'll just post a little thing about, you know, throwback on a Thursday, or, you know, so it doesn't have to take hours and hours to produce a guide. You can do it on a much smaller scale. but people, people make they make their brand out of it. Could be how they speak, it could be that they use cartoons in there, so everyone has their own way of putting across their own personality. And I suppose, and the way that I put out my own content is a reflection of myself. I'm quite ordered, so I like to have a plan, and I use the same type of content, the same structure. For example, in my newsletters, they're always how to do things. So they always focus on being practical, how to do something on LinkedIn, how to portray yourself in a certain way, how to get a certain result, rather than very general marketing topics, or they're quite practical. So the idea is that people can go away and go, right, I would, I'll do these 3 points now and I'll actually see a result. That's normally what I think about when I'm writing them. That's not to sort of go off on a waffly tangent, but to actually be like, okay, this is what you do, A, B, Z. And when you look at my newsletters on my profile, hopefully you'll see that they all look similar in they don't all look exactly the same, but they'll all have the same color, the same style. Some elements of them will be the same, so that when you look at my profile as an outsider, so as someone coming to look at my profile, they'll see the same sort of style running through all of them. And it's just, I suppose it's just the same as the way we dress or anything like that. It's, everyone has their own individual style.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because so I do a Monday video, which tends to get quite low engagement compared to my other posts. And every time I think to myself, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop doing the Monday morning video because it's not doing very well. I'll meet somebody who says, "Oh, I love your Monday morning video." Yeah. Like, I can't win, but it's definitely about how you look and how you come across, but it's also what, as you say, it's what you talk about, and what you say is also really important. And I've often thought about talking about wider marketing things and wider business solutions, if you like, and maybe looking at more sales type content, or I don't know, other slightly different content. And I thought, no, because people want me for my LinkedIn content, and it's being very focused, I think, really helps people understand what it is that we do, but also how we can help them.
Yeah, and exactly. And they'll remember when they actually want somebody who does what you do, they'll remember you and you'll be top of mind, rather than if you were known for 10 different things, you're not going to be the specialist that they think of when they actually need that service. So when they want LinkedIn training or employee advocacy training or something, they're going to go to the person that's top of mind, and that's that sort of top of mind thinking is the same in when you send DMs to people. You want to stay somewhere in someone's inbox regularly without spamming them, so that they remember you and they know what you do when they actually need your service. So I always try, it was actually it's like one of the tips I always give people, which people, they just think it's like a pointless thing on LinkedIn, is the celebrations tab, where someone's had a birthday or a job anniversary, and it's like, what on earth's a job anniversary? But actually they're really good conversation starters. So they're really good for you. Say to someone, you send them a message. I do it every morning. I go down my celebrations tab. I say to someone, and I send them a personalized message saying, many have a return to the day, or whatever, you haven't got something lovely planned, or I see you spent another year at Procter & Gamble, well done, how's it going, or whatever. And it's a conversation starter, because they generally reply because it stands out in their inbox against all the other people who've just pressed congrats, which is like an automatic thing that LinkedIn have prompted them to do. And so people tend not to reply to those. So it's a really, really, really good way of starting new conversations with people, is to use the celebrations tab. At least I find it. I don't know whether you use it.
I do. And funnily enough, I was having a conversation with my social media manager this afternoon, and I said, let's write a post about how to use the celebration tab in order to start a conversation with somebody, because I don't I don't mind, you know, whatever anybody says, when somebody wishes you a happy birthday when it's your birthday, it feels nice, whether you know
Yeah,
that or not. Yeah. So,
yeah,
and I
when
think,
it's personalized, exactly. Yeah, it makes you. I would always respond. I mean, after like my birthday, which was in June. Am I mistaken? Haven't you also got a June birthday? Or did I imagine that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how I remember that. But I had a feeling that your birthday was really near mine. Yeah, so after like my birthday, I did spend the next couple of days answering people's messages, but the ones I answered first were the ones that were proper messages that I could see somebody had written to me, that they hadn't just sort of pressed click on LinkedIn, and that they'd taken the time to write. So I wrote something proper back to them, and then that not in every case, but in a certain amount of cases, then led to a proper conversation. So and cool. So they're worth investing your time in.
100%. No, I
Yeah.
agree. And also, as you said, the work anniversary ones is also a great one. And yeah, maybe a bit cheesy, but I remember sending somebody a congratulations on your work anniversary, whatever it was called. And they said, oh, crikey, have I been there that long? It's about time I moved. I'm going to start looking for a new job.
That's great. You can help them optimize their LinkedIn profile. So there you go.
Well, and then the conversation ensued. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can always find a way that you need to help.
Yeah, and there are so many ways, aren't there, that we can contact people and connect with people. And I think people do get very frightened of LinkedIn, and they think it's this sort of scary place. But actually, it's just talking to people, isn't it?
Yeah. I would say to people that if you're worried about putting out a post on LinkedIn, because people worry, what will people think of me? Will my colleagues like it? Will my bosses get annoyed? When generally no one will really notice it other to start with. And then once you get more comfortable and more people start to like your posts, and then you feel comfortable. And as long as you're not going, if you're staying away from religion or politics, you'll be fine. No one's going to have a go at you. I mean, I don't think I've ever, in all the years I've been on LinkedIn, been trolled by anyone or anyone has said anything horrible to me. So you're really going to be pretty safe unless you go out on a real limb. Or say something really controversial. And most people usually only say something really controversial because they want to get loads of likes or engagement or etc. So it's normally the sorts of people who do it on purpose. So you're not really going to fall in, you're not really going to fall down like that. And I would say, starting with direct messaging is a much easier and more comfortable place to start, because you can just have a conversation as you would. Don't overthink it. Try and write them in a natural way, as you would. It's not a sales message, as you would in real life. You're talking to somebody. How's your business going? Have you found, how's Q2 gone for you? Got anything planned exciting for Q3 and 4? Whatever. How did your last launch go? And actually, I find I have the Sales Navigator account, the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I'm not affiliated with it at all. But it's really good for getting a bit deeper insights into what the company is doing at the moment. So, what's their company doing? What are they struggling with? Are they hiring? Because you can filter the companies that are hiring, and if they're hiring, that it's positive, they're in a growth phase, etc., rather than going after a company that is laying everyone off and has no money, no budget to do anything, which is not most people's ideal client. So but LinkedIn Sales Navigator is particularly good for getting to the right people, those in a growth stage, those who are potentially open to having conversations, and those who are active on LinkedIn, because you can see those people who have posted in the last 30 days.
Absolutely. And that's for those people who don't have Sales Navigator, there are still ways that you can see if a company's growing or is busy. And I think activities, particularly if you don't have Sales Navigator, seeing a company who's active on LinkedIn implies, depending on their content, that they are busy, that they are generating business, and they've got things to say. Whereas a company who's struggling is probably not going to be very active on LinkedIn because the story isn't one that people want to hear. So, and I think that's really interesting. So follow, if there's a company or a person even that you're particularly interested in, it's always important to check them out first, look at the profiles, look at the company pages, if that's what, you know, if you're looking at the company, and find ways that you can start a conversation, because there's always stuff there that you can find in their profile or on their page that you can pin that first comment to, or that first DM, and say, oh, I see you're doing this, or you've just worked on that project. And that's what we do in real life, isn't it, when we meet people?
Yeah, you can help somebody, you know, give them like a profile tip. Like I said to somebody just last week that when I looked at his headline, most of it was all formatted in like bold or italic. And I said to him, you're going to really damage your reach, because firstly, it's not accessible. It's not accessible for screen readers, and it will damage your indexing on both on LinkedIn and on Google if you have all these different fonts and bold and etc. And I'm like, you can use it in your LinkedIn profile, but not for those keywords that you want to be found for, because you then won't be, you know, so use them sort of strategically if you want to use formatting.
Yeah, and that's a really good piece of advice, and what a nice thing to do to somebody, you know, to help them out in that way. And I'm always grateful if anybody, you know, if I've made a typo in a post or something, and which, you know, happens less now that I have somebody helping me with it all. But, you know, if you have made a mistake or done something that maybe isn't best practice, I think it's really nice if somebody takes their time to reach out and help you. So
yeah, well, often it's things that people wouldn't know. It's things that people just wouldn't be aware of. Unless it was your business, you wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't even be aware of that. It's just that obviously we know about it because it's what we do. So, you know, it's on our radar, whereas it's not on most people's radar. To them, it's just about aesthetics and what it looks like, which it does look very pretty. But actually, as far as business generation goes, it's not the greatest.
No, exactly. So winding all the way back to where we were, I'm loving this conversation because it's going all kind of meandering down different lanes.
Like nowhere near where it's supposed to go.
Oh, but that's the point. That's the why I love lives. And this all started with the comment, which I'm just going to show again because I thought that's quite funny. So thank you for the comment.
On the comments as well.
Exactly. So business development is obviously something that you were doing, and then you realized that the LinkedIn training or the LinkedIn side of things was where you wanted to be. And you work now mainly with finance and legal professionals. And obviously that was where you trained in the law, well, in law and finance. Mm-hmm. And do you find then that because of your experience in law and finance that you can better help your clients?
Well, I think it's more sort of on the soft skills side. So it's not even so much understanding their actual business, because they could be an IP lawyer, they could be, you know, they could be a lawyer in a trust company, or they could be, you know, an investment banker. So it's not knowing sort of the intrinsics of what they're doing on their day to day so much, but because that can be researched, etc. It's more that I understand what they're looking for, how they want to put themselves across. How they work, so attention to detail is really important. Obviously, they're often regulated, so it's more the style of working with someone that resonates. And I suppose I can also draft my own contracts. But I mean, apart from that, it's generally that you sort of, you know, where they're mixing, you know who their ideal client is, so you know the sorts of people that they want for referrals. So when you're sort of building lists of the sorts of people that will be useful to them on LinkedIn to connect with, then that's where my knowledge and my expertise comes into play, because I know if I was what, you know, if I was them, what they would be looking for, how they want to portray themselves and put themselves across. So that's really that's really so. And I always say I have on my headline, as you can see, obviously I work with people in finance and law. And that's how I get found in searches. So people who come to me are normally in those sectors because they've searched on LinkedIn and they found my services page, etc., as you do. And then, but often I will work with other people in the same way. But for example, I've just started working with somebody who is a yoga and meditation, does corporate yoga and meditation in Switzerland. And that's been completely different, but it's the it's the same idea behind it, the same way of talking to people. But just stylistically, it's been really interesting because suddenly I'm, talking in a different way to as if I was, writing something for a lawyer. I'm now talking about have a peaceful Thursday instead of warmest regards or whatever. So it's all stylistically it's different, but actually the strategy is the same. So somebody who wants to engage with people for for coaching or consultants for their coaching or consultancy services is actually the same strategy to generate more business and increase their their credibility and their branding within their sector as if I was working with a lawyer or finance. So it's across LinkedIn, it's actually people are really, whatever sector they're in, they're really doing something quite similar.
Yes, got you. Yeah. So it's the same rule. It's a kind of the same rules that we apply all the way across LinkedIn. But of course, as you've identified, every sector, every industry is going to apply those rules in a slightly different way. And the fact that you've got experience, particularly in the finance and legal sector, means that you can understand your audience much better. And in fact, you talked about it earlier about your branding, how you've tailored not only your keywords in your headline and in your in your LinkedIn profile, but you've also tailored your branding to speak directly to the audience that you want it to speak to. And that's really important, because even if you are using the right keywords, so that therefore when people type those keywords in, you're going to come up in those searches, when they get to you, they like you, they understand you as well as you understanding them. And this is what LinkedIn is about. It's about relationship building, isn't it?
Yeah, not everyone is for everybody. I mean, there's lots of people on LinkedIn. There's hundreds of us who do essentially something very similar, but in service wise. But we all have a different style. We all have a different way of talking to people and engaging with people and people that we get on with. I mean, it's like, not everybody. Otherwise, if we were all the same, we don't want to be married to the same people. I mean, it wouldn't work, So it's the same on LinkedIn. Everybody, gets on better with one type of person than another, and that's just the way the world is, and it's good because if you get the right person come to you, if you're true to yourself and you don't put yourself out in a way that is not your authentic self. There's certain things I don't do on LinkedIn because I'm not comfortable with it, and and that's probably a reflection of me as a person, and I think that's important. That's like the reason that I don't, that I won't do certain things. You'll never find me like singing and dancing on TikTok. It's like not my thing. But there's lots of people that do. So
yeah, no, and that's what I found coming into LinkedIn and being a LinkedIn trainer, meeting people like you. And let's face it, we are competitors, but we're not competitors. I call us colleagues and supporters of each other. And here we are having this lovely conversation. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been referred work from other LinkedIn trainers because the type of person who's come to them wasn't their ideal client, and by the same rationale, I've given stuff to other people. I don't know, we all know Louise Brogan. I know you know Louise as well, and she because I mean it didn't suit my schedule or what I wanted to do, but she did a big talk in I think it was in Budapest, where we were just talking about actually recently, and because they'd come to me, it didn't fit with what I wanted to do, and I said I know somebody who I think would love this, and I introduced them. So I gave her a piece of work because it didn't fit for me. I wasn't comfortable doing it, but I thought it would work really well for her, and she said it was brilliant. She loved it. So that was like it was great. I'm happy to do that.
It's so nice. And in fact, our friend John Esperian, he was asked to speak at an event, and he said it didn't really fit. It wasn't really his subject or his area of LinkedIn. It was about company pages, and he doesn't really do company pages. So he put me forward, And I think it was company, but I can't remember. I think that's what it was. Anyway, so I spoke at the event. He watched the event afterwards and he said, well, you did really well, but there's no way that that would have been for me, so I'm really glad I made that referral. And I think he got kudos from the conference organizer for providing a solution to their problem. It wasn't the solution they thought they were going to get, but it was a solution.
Yeah.
So,
no, exactly. And I'm sure that they would probably reach out to both you and him again for for further work, because it's a John is really authentic, and that's a fair reflection on what he's like as a person, and
absolutely.
It's important. There's very few. I mean, it's very friendly. Most of the time, it's a very friendly community, the LinkedIn community. There's a lot of support there for, I found that when I had a horrible week where I lost my account for a week back in, I think it was April, and it was horrendous, but all my friends, like my connections from LinkedIn, not all of them, obviously, but there was a core that checked in on me on WhatsApp, on like Facebook, on all other platforms, because they knew what was going on until it was obviously a mistake, and I got my account back within a week, but that it was very strange not having that network for a whole week. Like, it was very, very odd.
Oh, it's awful. It's never happened to me, thank goodness. But yeah, no, it isn't good. And in fact, I'm just wary of the time. But actually, I'm just going to pause here and say thank you for the comments. So Steve and Lincoln, this is how it should be. It's the reason for networking. Absolutely. And it is the reason. And you and I were talking in the green room before we went on about being trolled on LinkedIn. And I was trolled on LinkedIn once by one person, and not only on LinkedIn, also via my emails. And it was the same person. And it got worse and worse. And I was trying to tackle it, as I always say to my clients, you tackle it openly on the platform. Because if they're trolling you openly on the platform, you need to go head on in there and tackle it there. And if it gets too much, you say to them, can we then move this into the DMs? But to try and hide from it, I think is not a good strategy. So I was trying to tackle this person and got to a point where they just went too far, really, really went too far. And they put a very, very rude comment on one of my posts. And I posted and I said, really, you've gone too far now. I am going to block you. And I did. And of course, that message was shown to everybody that I was going to block them. And then my phone rang literally straight away, or a few minutes later. And it was a number I didn't know. And I thought, this could be the person. They could have got my number and rang me. And it was somebody, I won't tell you who it was, who I had knew on LinkedIn. I'd never met her in person. I have since met her in person many times. And she rang me to see if I was okay, because she saw it happening live on LinkedIn. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. People are really, really lovely. I was really, so I'm just reading the comments. Yeah. I was really blown away actually by the people. And there were a few people who surprised me by not contacting me when they knew that I'd been, which surprised me. So you really find out who your friends are, actually, the people that and people like, and a big shout out to John, I have to say, who was amazing, because he didn't just check in once, he checked in with me like every day until I got my account back, which was super nice. But a few people, it was amazing, who knew that I hadn't done anything wrong, and who submitted support tickets and stuff on my behalf. So yeah, it was. I really appreciated it. I really. But
so wonderful. No, it is generally a really, really wonderful network, and I've been active on LinkedIn for a good few years now, and that is only one occasion that I've been trolled or had anything negative at all. So I count myself lucky, really. So yeah, why did say again? Yes, it was.
Was it a competitor?
Yes, it was. But we say no more. Well, we think it was. Long story. Anyway, Steve Saul asks, why do people waste their time? No idea. Talking of time, have you realised we've gone over time already, Melanie?
Do you know what? I don't even know how long we were supposed to be on for, so I'm just like chatting away. I have no idea.
I normally do half an hour. I normally do half an hour. I just think I don't want to be here for too long and take up everybody's time. But I do have one question, the last question I want to ask you, which I ask all of my guests, this last question, because I think it's a really nice thing. So my final question is, if you can think of 3 takeaway tips that you can give the audience that are watching now, but also when this is released as a podcast, which it will be at some point when I get my act together, the people that are listening to this as a podcast, if you can give us 3 takeaway tips for those people, that would be amazing, Melanie.
Right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. The first one, customize your LinkedIn URL. So go to view your profile, go to the top right of the page. It says edit your URL and put in the words that you want to be found for. So whether you are, if you want a new role, or you are a CEO, you're in finance, you are in whatever you are, an analyst, put it all the keywords that you want to be found for, coaching, in your URL, and then you can share that by email, or you can share that on LinkedIn or wherever you like, but it looks a lot smarter and you'll come up in searches. My second one is add a featured section to your LinkedIn profile, because it looks like an album that people can scroll across on your page. It looks smart. What you can do is you can add as one of your featured items, you can add an image with your call booking link. So you could have an image that says, book a call with me, let's chat, here's a link to my calendar, and it will show right in the middle of your profile, as well as, just adding a link somewhere else. And my third top tip, I would have said the celebrations. Use the celebrations tab. I'm going to come up with something different now because we've already talked about that earlier on. So it would actually be contact details. So unbelievably, you go to try and get hold of someone on LinkedIn, and they obviously want to do business with people. You can't find their contact details. So check that your contact details aren't some old Hotmail address from years ago, but not only put your contact details in the contact information tab, but also include them in your about section. Leave some of the characters at the bottom to say, I welcome conversation. Please do contact me, and give your email address and your work telephone number. And talking about trolling, I have never had people abuse my telephone number, even though it's obviously not my personal telephone number that I put on there, but no one sort of abuses it. And I think that's the fear. But the idea is always you want to make it as easy as possible for people to contact you. So contact information, all the sections that you can. One, if you are feeling particularly techie, one thing you can do is some people set up a company page which they ask LinkedIn to convert into a schools page and call it their contact details, so that it shows at the top of their profile under their company name. Anyone who wants to know that it's a bit techie for 30 seconds at the end of a live, if anyone wants to know more about how to do that, just drop me a line.
Brilliant. So I'm going to add something to that. I'm going to go through the 3, and then I'm going to add something to that schools page that you just said. So customize your LinkedIn URL. I always say get rid of those prison numbers and whatever. Make sure you've got all your featured sections, everything, they're all there, because the more, I agree, and also the more there is there, the more people get to know about you. And put your contact details everywhere you possibly can. Even if you don't want people to phone you, your email address, your website, your company's website. However, they can contact you. Okay, so with regards to the schools thing, if you go to my profile, you'll see I've got a little message beneath my company page which says DM me or something. I can't remember what it is. So what I did, if you scroll down, I added an education. So I just added an education and made it up and just put DM me, and it's a little message, and that then sits below your company page, right up on your profile. It's cheeky, but why not?
I know there's these little tricks that we can do to add to our profiles.
Exactly. So we are 9 minutes over time. Hey, whatever. Melanie Goodman, it's been amazing to talk to you as always. Oh, I have one more question.
Oh, cool.
Where can people find you?
On LinkedIn. So obviously the name of my company. So I mean, you can find me on WhatsApp and you can find me on YouTube and you can find me also on TikTok. But the place where I spend most of my day is obviously LinkedIn. So if you look up Melanie Goodman on LinkedIn, and Trevor Zan is my company. So it's actually on LinkedIn, it says Trevor Zan's CPD accredited LinkedIn marketing and training and consultancy. So full LinkedIn service, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Melanie Goodman. Thank you so much. We're going to play out a little bit of music. We can dance if we wish. Anybody in the audience can also dance. Let's go. Thank you very much, Melanie Goodman.